Okay, welcome everybody to our May's edition of ADHD Support Group, and it's Women, ADHD and the Danger of Emotional Withdrawal. And I'd like this to be very interactive tonight in the sense of there's Kinsani, who said she's going to open up and tell us, she's one of our coaches, and her experience with, because I mean, obviously we talk about emotional withdrawal, it involves bottling up your feelings. And it also can mean cutting out people that could possibly help us. And because us ADHD people, 90% of us have RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria, we are so sensitive to criticism and rejection. It's very easy for us to distance ourselves from people and emotionally withdraw and cut ourselves off, because at least we save ourselves from being hurt and exposing ourselves to be rejected. So it is quite a big topic, and our emotions can be very big. So it will be really great to have all of your interaction, because emotions is something we all have and all have a lot of. So Kinsan, if you want to kick off, I really appreciate that.
Cool, thanks, Tracy. Yeah, so when Tracy asked me to share some of my experiences with this, I didn't really know what she was talking about. And then she sent me a definition. So Tracy, if you don't mind, I just want to start off with that, little definition, and about how when I read the definition, it kind of forced me to go back to a very dark place in my life, or a very dark time in my life, where this was definitely a big theme. So like she said, it's pulling away from your friends, it's pulling away from just your loved ones. And it's also a coping mechanism that a lot of women, especially with ADHD, learn from, bouts of rejection, disappointment, bullying, etc. So what happened with me is, I think because during my period of emotional withdrawal, there was a lot of things happening at the back of the ADHD, but I definitely think the ADHD kind of exacerbated my experience with it, and just made those feelings extra large and extra big and extra overwhelming. So it was a period of like genuine grief. I had lost my best friend to suicide at the time. So obviously I was dealing with those emotions of, grief and depression, and I just didn't know what was going on with me. I was on ADHD medication as well, and antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds. It was just a whole cocktail of, I guess, chemicals trying to regulate all of this stuff that was happening. But I found that while having to deal with all of those things that were happening, also work was just very toxic at the time. I was not having a great time. I was masking a lot. I think a lot of emotional withdrawal does involve a lot of masking, just going in and having to uphold a certain image, and then going home and taking off that mask or taking off that costume, so you could just be yourself and just withdraw and just feel okay with not being surrounded by so many people. So I think all of that made me very numb. It made me very disconnected. Sumaya said connection is so important. It's important to, open yourself up to all avenues of connection. But I just really wasn't able to connect to anyone really. Not my friends, not my family, not my colleagues. I was very, very numb. And yeah, I think it was just a whole range of all of those factors, environmental, chemical, medical, and all of that. I'm a very sociable person, and Tracy will tell you this. I'm very talkative. I'm very bubbly and vibrant. But during that time, it was just like, I just was not seeing people. I was not talking to my friends. I would cancel plans literally at the last minute. I wasn't talking to my mother. I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to do or loved doing at the time. I stopped listening to music for like a whole year. I think I realized that when I got better, I think, and equipped myself with the skills, and obviously the grief passed and I went into a really intense period of therapy. But once I became a better person, sorry, that sounds very wrong. But once I became better, I felt better and I felt more like myself. All of those, realizations started to come to play. So it was very hard. And I do believe that ADHD exacerbated all of those different feelings of disconnection. Also just like not relating to people. So with ADHD, like Tracy said, you have a lot of RSD. I think I might have RSD. It's not diagnosed, but we did a quiz once, and a lot of those different, I really related to all of those different, I guess, symptoms of RSD. And it's just about it. I think for me, a lot of it was just about not wanting to open up to people about my experience, because I feared that rejection. I feared that people wouldn't understand me. People wouldn't really want to relate, and having to deal with that rejection would have also just, I think, completely worsened the situation. But I think Tracy will get into some coping mechanisms and coping skills. But I think for one, therapy helped a lot to deal with those big feelings. Coaching helped a lot with that. And yeah, I think connection as well. I think in as much as I didn't connect with everyone and struggled to connect, the moments I did connect with the people that I loved, especially my family, having to help them understand what I was going through and in what ways they could support me really worked. Because if you don't share what you're going through, or you don't share things that are bothering you and your reasons for withdrawal, it's very hard for people to help you if they don't know how to do it. So those are some of the things that I kind of relied on a lot. And yeah, I'm better now. COVID's like obviously promoted a sense of isolation. I mean, I live alone, I work from home, but I try as best as I can to really just stay connected to the people that I love, especially not being afraid to ask for help and ask for support from both friends and colleagues, and loved ones. So yeah, that's me. I don't know if I covered any of that. And yeah, I hope you have the rest of a good talk. That didn't make any sense, but yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the talk is what I meant to say. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, thanks, Kinsani. So I think the biggest thing that comes out of that, Kinsani, is taking that initially very scary step of saying that I have a problem, I'm struggling, and verbalizing what's happening. And as women, we struggle with that. We struggle to verbalize what's happening. And it's not a form of weakness. It's a form of, we have these personas that we need to cope with so much. We wear so many masks and we have to get through, because if we don't get through, who's gonna, our husbands aren't capable of doing it in our minds. There's just so much going on in our heads. But there is support. And one of the biggest things is with people with ADHD is that to realize there are lots of us out there. You're not supposed to be super mom. We're born imperfect, we die imperfect. Okay, this is all about learning and growing. And just to say, this is what's happening, and reach out. That's a very first step. And with ADHD, a lot of us, talk therapy helps. And then obviously the skills. Just acknowledging that, yeah, and it's okay to feel like this. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling anxious. Okay, and that's your first step. That's 50% of your problem, just to acknowledge your emotions. Then the next part is, so what can I do with it? What can be helpful Okay, and that's healthy, and that's not unhealthy and detrimental to my mental health. So I don't know if there's anybody else before, we talk more about coping mechanisms and that. Thanks, Michelle. That's awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Tracy. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to give you a quick, a brief rundown of my life. So I'm married with 3 boys. My oldest being 13, the middle one being 11, and I've got a lot lamaki of 3. And we all ADHD, but it's been quite a long journey for me because, to cut a long story short, I'm one of a twin. And my sister's actually a drug addict. My twin sister's a drug addict. So for me, when I had my kids, and the first school interview, pretty much the feedback, should I rather say, my oldest wasn't coping in grade 1. And that was like alarm bells, but I didn't know I was ADHD at the time. Like, I always struggled through school and I had to have extra lessons and so on. But, I came from a generation of, my parents weren't aware of ADHD. You were normally naughty, you got kicked out, or you had to go to the principal's office, or you missed lessons. It was never really, it was so taboo then. So my first experience of ADHD, although I always knew that I wasn't, not that I wasn't okay, but school was hard. We're very bright, we're very clever people. It's just that school was very boring for me, and it was never, it was always like hard work to finish my work, or spelling, or so. Anyway, I had my oldest, I got called in, and he wasn't coping in grade 1. And that's a foundation phase, and you think like, how can you not cope, foundation phase? Anyway, went through all the processes. I changed his diet. My work is holistic. The work that I do is holistic. So I don't believe in pharmaceuticals, although I've changed my mind massively about that now. So I changed diet. We did a thing called brain entrainment, where it's like dog clicker training, where they try and train the brain. And that's also agonizing for a young child to go through, because it's long hours and they don't understand why they have to do it. And it's such an emotional journey, and you feel like, am I doing the right thing? Is this really a thing? Anyway, so at the end of it, I ended up putting my oldest on Ritalin. I took him to a specialist, a very conservative specialist, which I love. And we ended up putting him on Ritalin, and it was night and day. And so over the years, as my kids got older, and then the second one came along, which is ADHD and ODD, so oppositional defiant disorder, as well as my husband, which I've only learned now in the last couple of years. So all of us are medicated apart from my husband, and obviously the little one's too little to be. But can I tell you, it's honestly been, it's been a very emotional journey, and I'm a very emotional person. But putting myself on medication has been like an eye-opener. It feels like I always felt like I never coped. And being a first-time mom, I was young. I was 24 when I had my first. I had no friends. I had no emotional support. And yeah, just kind of being thrown in the deep end. All the wheels came off. So obviously you get a thing called, what's it called? Postnatal depression, which is obviously what I had, being ADHD, because it was never treated. So then, of course, the anxiety and the depression came along with it. And since I've medicated myself, so I also myself take Concerta, and I take antidepressants and an anti-anxiety medication. And it just helps me focus, and it helps me not feel like all the wheels are coming off. You just have days, or I have days, I'm speaking for myself, where I just feel like I'm not coping, where everything just feels like it's coming down on me all at once. And the kids are all shouting, and we're all ADHD, so my house is like, it's like a madhouse. I say it in the nicest possible way. Yeah, like a zoo. But for me, seeing Tracy, like going to life coaching, educating myself and empowering myself on ADHD. And the thing is, it's not, like I said to my boys, it's not like a death sentence. It's actually an amazing gift. And we have to look at it as a gift, and we have to learn how to channel the way that we learn. So I've actually had to raise all of my boys differently, because they're all ADHD in a different way. So that's been the challenging part for me, as well as to manage my own ADHD, as well as my husband. So hence I'm in life coaching with Tracy, just to help me give me the tools to just help raise all of us and all the dynamics. But yeah, that's been my journey. It's been a big one. And I look at my sister, and even I don't have a relationship with her because she's a drug addict. I understand why she went down that path, because she never felt like she fit in, and because she was also oppositional defiant in those days. My folks didn't know that. So hence she went down the drug road, because she was trying to fulfill something that she wasn't getting. So it's been a good lesson for me, but that's the reason why I've put all of us on meds, because I don't want my children landing up like that. And it's in my family, and yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Thanks, Mish. And coping,
Okay.
how have you coped? I mean, it's a lot. It's like, the one ADHD person is like having two in the house, so there's 10 of you.
Yeah, look, it's a lot. So everyone, what I've done, and it's actually only been in the last couple of years, because my oldest is in high school now, so school gets real. So I've put boards up in everyone's room, like whiteboards, and I write down everyone's schedule for the week and what sports they have, to what clothes they have to pack, to meetings I've got. And I still mess up, even though I do that. And I set reminders on my phone, and I've got calendars up in my kitchen, and I still forget someone, or forget I've got a meeting planned at whatever time. But I have to do that. And all of us, like I said to my eldest, if you get like a communication from school on your phone, because everything's through their device nowadays, which drives me nuts, I said, just forward it to me straight away so that I can add it to his board. Because if he doesn't, then he forgets to tell me, and then I don't know it's happened, and then, we miss out. So communication for us, and I said to them, just tell me what's happening. But seriously, reminders and stuff in my face, boards everywhere, reminders on my phone, it's the only way I get through. But it's tough. It's tough managing 3 boys, well, 4, including my husband.
It's a lot. That's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. But with Tracy's help, I'll get through it. Yeah.
No, but you're doing well. You're managing your own emotions.
Yes,
what,
yeah.
What is the biggest thing you've learned?
That it's okay to feel the way that you do. I think being ADHD and being a mom and being a woman, you kind of just expected to cope. Look, I don't know if I'm speaking maybe just for my husband, but I like to feel that my husband is like a lot of men out there, and they just kind of expect you to have your role and to cope emotionally. But they don't understand, when you've got all these kids and all their emotions. I mean, for me, put me into a job 9 to 5, I'll cope 100% because I can switch off emotionally and I get the job done. But when it comes to the children, I want them to be well-rounded, and I want all their individual needs met, and the way that each of them need to be supported is very different. So that can be very challenging and very stressful. But I manage. I'm there, like barely sometimes. But it's honestly okay to not feel like you've got everything together. You know what I mean? Like, I would beat myself up. I'm actually very hard on myself, thinking, Michelle, why can't you cope? Like, this is ridiculous. And I'm actually my own worst enemy at the best of times. But it's okay to feel the way. If you're having a bad day, it's okay to feel that way. I think that's the biggest thing, and it's completely normal, and it's not forever. It's just certain phases. It's like, I feel like my life does this with certain things. But then I have someone like Tracy who gives me the guidance and the coaching and the tools if I'm stuck in a bit of a rut, and then I go, okay, actually I've got this. I can deal with this. It's okay that I'm feeling this way. It's completely normal. Like, my life's hectic. Yeah. So it's up and down, I guess. And I laugh. For me, laughter is what gets me through life, guys. So at the end of the day, if you're ever feeling down, just laugh.
No, agreed. I mean, that's something that we lack, is dopamine. And laughter creates dopamine, like exercise. And
and exercise.
Best medicine.
Yeah, exercise is the best thing. Absolutely, it is. To sort your head out, to give you your you time, actually,
So how many kilometers are you running now, Michelle?
I'm on 10 at the moment, but I'm working towards a half marathon, and then I'll do a full marathon next year.
Brilliant.
That's just to escape my family, by the way.
That's brilliant. Excellent, Michelle. Well done.
Thanks, Tracy. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to share?
Hi, everybody. I'm also ADHD. And like Michelle, I've got a very colorful household. Both my kids are ADHD and so is my husband. So it's basically chaos all the time. For me, my ADHD emanated like at school, I was the quiet, always trying to be perfect person. So I put my emotions aside and I just try to fit in. And then when I'd get home, the wheels would come off and I would just be all over the place. It was like night and day. At school, I was perfect. At home, I was a terror. I think the worst part of the ADHD for me happened while I was at varsity. I really started struggling with concentration, but I felt that I couldn't confide in anybody, or I couldn't tell anybody what I was going through because I was expected to be this person that achieved. So when I was out and about, I hid my emotions. I would just be. I could actually be social, which was detrimental to me in the end. But I masked really well. I was an expert at masking. And after I got married, I would go to family functions and I'd be there, I'd be present, but the RSD was really bad. So when we drive home, that was like the part where it all came pouring out, because if anybody was upset, I felt I did something or I said something. And it took a really, really long time to realize that it wasn't all about me. When I met Tracy, I was basically stuck in this black hole. I've been to therapy for years. I've been on medication. Like Insani and Michelle, I'm on a cocktail of meds. I always joke about the fact that I've got to take drugs to wake up and I've got to take drugs to go to sleep, because that's the only way I can cope. But that was just not enough. I then had, like I said, therapy for years. I think I had more than 10 therapists, and that got me to a point where I could talk about what was going on, but without getting all emotional. But it never got me to a point as to what next, like Sumaya always says, now what? So after that, when I met Tracy, I learned, now what then? I've got this diagnosis, I've been to therapy, I've got the meds, so how do I move forward now? And
then
with
what?
The life,
as the mayor says,
yes,
and then what coaches, and then what?
So after I met Tracy, I started learning some skills, and I've actually been able to get my kids doing some of the skills age appropriately. But life has become a lot less hectic. Emotionally, I've learned to deal with my feelings in the moment. I've learned to deal with them. I won't say responsibly, but in a more acceptable manner. And I'm happy that I can actually pass that on to my kids, and that I can also, that I can understand their ADHD, that I can understand their RSD, and the moments they have. And especially with my daughter, she portrays her ADHD much like I did. She talks a lot, and that's the way she is. But she also tries to be perfect. Like, she tries to live up to unreasonable expectations. But I've actually now gotten skills to teach her that, it's okay, to be you. It's okay to deal with those emotions, and as a female, not to hide them, or not to think that you're less than. And I think for me, life skills has made a huge difference. And I think that is the area that is lacking a lot in society. When I meet fellow ADHDers, and even when I go to the hospital to see the psychiatrist, you sit there and you're like, life skills is so needed. It is a part that very few people understand and that very few people actually know is available. I never knew it was available until what, a year and a half ago. And I think for me, the past few months, the journey thus far has been, sorry guys, the journey thus far has been so amazing. I still wake up trying to check my reality, to actually say to myself, like, after all these years, all I needed was someone to be there to guide me with skills to actually get my life back together. And I think for a lot of people with ADHD who don't have that, you lost, you stuck for life. I mean, I've got family members that I can look at now that you can see that if only they were diagnosed, if only they had that opportunity, that skills to get them through the day. Because honestly, without the skills, I couldn't cope. I couldn't get through the day. I was like I was running. I felt like I was running around all day. I was busy from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, but I cannot tell you what I was doing. So that is my bit of my ADHD experience. And I'm learning, I've learned to accept the challenges and to try and just work on those challenges, to try and build myself to a point where I can turn them into positives. And I think that was my biggest lesson.
Thank you, Bianca. That's awesome. Juanita. Thank you. Thanks.
So my son is ASD and also ADHD, and yeah, thank you, Bianca. You changed my life when I listened to your previous two sessions. I've learned so much. So the doctor changed my son's medication to a mood stabilizer, which have also, I think it saved my life as well, because now he couldn't sleep. I couldn't get him to bed. It was terrible. And now he's finally going to bed every night without a fuss, without a scream, without a fight. And it's so much better. Yeah. And I need to find the third leg of this whole story, is to find therapy for him. And I haven't found the right people, and Tracy and I need to discuss it with you. But it's still a journey for me, and yeah, I need to find a way to get all this medication to be paid through the medical aid on the chronicle, because I'm not coping with that. I don't know what to do there, and that's my main problem at the moment. I don't know how to get this stuff on chronic, because it is getting a bit of a problem for me. So
Juanita, the nice part is that good news is that Bianca's going to be our first. She's actually doing the life skills coach course with me, and she's going to be our first ADHD and ASD coach.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
The crossover between ADHD and ASD, we now will have a life skills coach, which will be Bianca, who understands it. She has it. She has two children who has it. And she's going to be able to do the life skills coaching for ASD and ADHD. So she's about to be certified within the next 6 weeks. So that's really exciting.
Yes.
It's so much needed. It's really, really
it is
so needed.
Yeah.
So thank you. How do you manage your emotions?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot for you.
It was very hectic in the beginning, especially I think we've done a lot. So last year it was an absolute nightmare. He was still in primary school, but now I've moved him to Abbott's College, which is amazing. He loves the school. He's doing so well there. But it was quite difficult because he changed from an Afrikaans primary school to an English high school, and it's a high school with it's a private school with no bells, so they need to learn to manage their own time. So his anxiety was absolutely through the roof at the moment. But it was, it was very bad in the beginning because we didn't use the mood stabilizers. We tried melatonin just to get him to sleep, but that didn't work. And I couldn't even reason with him. Nothing made sense for him. I couldn't even tell him this is why you do it, because it just didn't work. So I was also in a state. I do suspect that I also have a bit of ADHD. I don't know. I've never had myself tested or whatever. But yes, it is really difficult because, we are... I'm a single mom at the moment, so also difficult to also try and keep all the balls up in the air. But I think it's better now because he's more manageable. I can get him to bed at a reasonable time in bed, and he gets up, and there's no issues, So we're getting into the routine. And Michelle, yes, I've learned to also set a lot of alarms everywhere. That's been helping me, saving my life. So but it's difficult.
Okay. So you still haven't answered. How do you cope? Is there anything? Do you cry? Do you have support?
I've got support in terms of friends, but not professional support, really. That's what I'm missing.
Okay. Well, we hope this platform will also provide it. Bianca, you understand what Juanita's going through. Would you like to offer her a little support? Because you know what it's all about, how you manage.
Okay. Like you said, your major concern is medication. Unfortunately, most medical aids don't cover it unless you're in a really high tier bracket or they take it out of your savings.
Yes, so that's all gone already. Savings is gone.
If you don't mind me asking, what meds is he on?
Okay, so he's on Concerta 38 milligrams during the week, and then weekends he's on Ritalin, and also Lexamil 10 milligrams, and Risnia, the Risperidol generic, 5 milligrams.
Okay, so my suggestion to you would be, unfortunately, the Concerta you'd have to cover, but switch the others all over to a public hospital. Let them cover that. So you go to your public hospital, go with your diagnosis or your documentation.
Yes.
They're going to insist on you seeing the psychiatrist, but once you get through the first hurdle, and once you're in the system, basically you just go every month, collect their meds, and you leave. They will have follow-up appointments with him just to check in how he's doing, how the meds is doing. But like I said, once you pass that first hurdle, there's no sitting in queues, there's no waiting forever. Like if your appointment is at 10:30, you go, and at 10:30 you see the doctor. There is the problem of having to get the file, but that I haven't found that to be very difficult with the kids. So if you do that, you get a bit of relief on that end. The other thing is you do qualify to get some, if you with SARS, you do get for that, and for the school fees, the difference between a public school and your private school, they actually do assist with that.
Okay.
With therapists, the public system, it's a bit difficult to get therapists, but they do try to assist as best they can. And
also through the hospital, the government hospital, then,
yes,
or what?
also through them. So you might have a bit of a wait, but once, like I said, once you're in their system, it becomes so much easier. They will give you a referral to an OT if that's needed. They also do a psychometric test, which I really appreciate, because it actually highlights their difficulties, and it actually gives you an idea of what type of support they actually need. And they also have a mom's like a parents workshop that they offer, where they also offer support to the parents and caregivers of children on the spectrum and ADHD as well.
Wow, that's amazing.
So like I said, the beginning is a bit of a hurdle. If you want, you can just contact Tracy and I can guide you more with more particulars in that regard.
Yeah,
But
sure.
once you pass that hurdle, it becomes much easier. Like, for example,
Yes.
both my kids had a doctor's appointment today. We were there at 10:30, saw the doctor. I took about, 10 minutes to wait for their meds, and we were out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Remember
So,
that ADHD coaching is 100% tax deductible.
yes.
Okay.
So it's because it's as a disability, so it is 100% tax deductible.
So doing the coaching then through your
Well, yeah, so you get it, it's 100%, you can get the money back.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Can I just
Okay.
say one thing? Sorry, I just want to say one thing. So we all on Concerta, and I know it's very, very expensive, but the specialist that we see has actually put us on the generic of that. And we've just gone on it now because it's my medical aid pays for it in full. Miradol or something like that. I'll actually take a photo of it and I'll send it to Tracy.
Cool.
Because otherwise there's still a 200 Rand co-payment if we take the Newcon. So I don't take the Concerta, we take the Newcon, but then the generic of that is Miradol. But I'll take a photo and I'll send it to Tracy, and then maybe just find out, because that is cheaper.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Also, with therapy, it helps to an extent, but for me personally, and now with my kids, the coaching has made such a big difference because of the skills. Unfortunately, therapy doesn't give you skills.
Yeah, there's a difference between coaching and skills.
That's the biggest
also
problem.
didn't realize.
Yes, that's the biggest problem that's lacking in the system. I was actually, when I spoke to my son's psychiatrist this morning, I actually highlighted that, there's this big gap, because you've got your meds, you go for therapy. So it deals a lot with the emotions. Like my kids are in play therapy, which improves it, but it doesn't give them the ability to function from day to day.
Yes.
It doesn't give them this. It doesn't help you manage, basically, and that is where an holistic approach actually makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And with kids on the spectrum, you'll know that skills are a part of life for them. Teaching them skills is the only way to help them get through situations, because unlike other kids who will pick up, neurotypical kids who will pick up these skills just by being alive, we unfortunately have to work harder at it. And I realized that with myself. I lacked the skills. Like I said, I went through so many therapists, and I was like, but at the end of it, I'm still not functioning. I'm still not coping. What's wrong? Until I realized, until I came to know that skills is what you need to move forward, to actually be productive. Because statistically, most people with ASD, especially if you're high functioning, you get through life to a certain point, but because you lack the skills, most people are not successfully employed or gainfully employed, or have there's not that, you don't reach that goal because you lack the skills to actually get there. And yet it's such a simple process. If we are offered those skills as part of growing up as adolescents, we actually transition so much easier. And this is not just me, it's like so many different people I've spoken to. And even with ADHD, I've seen that with my husband. Because of a lack of skills, you struggle to transition through life.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion and my view and the experience I've had thus far.
And it
Thank
makes
you.
a lot of sense because I had Leo with, he's seen a play therapist and a lot of people, but he just refused to speak to them. He just closed up and we couldn't get anything out of him. So, you know, I sort of gave up because I couldn't really find the right person that he will resonate with and we will talk with. It was really difficult.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you.
Sorry, Tracy.
No.
Have you managed to get him to open up yet?
When we lie in bed and the lights are off, I sometimes get something out of him, but not always.
Can I shine a light on that for you? So
Yes.
there's a profile called PDA. So it's
PDA.
called pathological pathological demand avoidance. Sorry.
Okay.
So once the demand gets really, like, once there's this pressure of the demand, it can be a simple demand, like go and brush your teeth, but the
Yes.
pressure of it causes you to shut down.
Okay.
So like the pressure of talking to a therapist,
Yes.
it causes you to shut down. And it's not that you don't want to talk, it's that you're unable to.
Yeah. Yes.
So
I must
there's
definitely that.
various ways of dealing with it. But
Okay.
a lot of your therapists don't know how to deal with PDA.
Yeah.
They've never even
So
heard of it.
that's where the difficulty comes in.
What did you say, Tracy?
I said they've never even heard of that PDA.
Yeah. What's that word?
Yes. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of interesting acronyms we have. Is anybody else who'd like to chat or say anything?
I don't have anything to share that's useful. I know you guys can't see my face, but I just want to say I'm enjoying everyone quoting me on the "and then what." I'm gonna get a T-shirt made, and then what is skills. That's what's the and then what. But just listening to all of your stories, I mean, starting off with Kensani and all of you. Firstly, I just want to say, like, I'm super proud of Kensani for rocking the whole living alone arrangement. I know her for a while and I can hear it in her voice that it's going well. Second, I want to propose that we take an excursion to Bianca's and Michelle's house and visit their home, because I think their home is an example of what we want the world to be, right? And this is coming from a non-ADHD. So we want to visit your home and then launch like a Netflix special on what the world needs to look like in order to be accommodating of ADHDers and everyone on the spectrum, because this is what needs to happen. I mean, it's super inspiring to know that you guys aren't trying to be, neurotypical, like boring all us. And you're embracing whatever it is, you're embracing the difficulties and the challenges. And I just want to say, like Juanita as well, like all of you guys had different stories to share, but these are the stories that people like me who are not on the spectrum get to echo from your experiences, because this is not in the syllabus. This is not, we just spoke about it like intensely, that the psychiatrists and the psychologists are not discussing all of these acronyms, the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. So I rely on these experiences firsthand in order to echo these things in practice. And, women are a walking contradiction, basically. What's expected of us is is stacked up against us. And I want to commend you on embracing every single struggle. But the one thing that I did want to comment on, coming from a non-ADHDer, is something that I hear so often is that I listen to the story and, you know, all women have to deal with that, or all people have these struggles. But there's something that's so important that you guys being on the spectrum have to deal with, is the intensity of these struggles, the frequency of them, and the duration of them. So whereas I can experience something similar to what you guys are talking about, you know, once in a blue moon, or you know, now and then, you guys are living this from morning to evening. Like Bianca said, waking up in the morning with drugs and going to bed with drugs. So if I haven't said it before, I want to commend every single story out here, the ones on the good days and the ones on the bad days. They all inspire us. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sophia.
Thanks, Samaya. Yeah.
Thanks, Samaya.
Would anybody else like to say anything about how emotionally they cope, or they struggle with their emotions? We'll have 10 minutes of silence then till somebody says something.
I will remember all my questions when I'm out of this meeting.
Yes.
So, there's normally a lot more to talk about afterwards.
You know, Juanita, I just want to say, we spoke now about the struggles of having the medication and our medical aids and everything else. It's not just a South African problem, it's actually an international problem dealing with these struggles. But I just want to say, like, you know, having the emotional toolbox in Tracy and this team and this group, you're in the right place. Like, I'm not just overselling, or it's not coming from, you know, a biased place. You're in the right place where what we deal with comes from a lot of experience, from a lot of people, a lot of research,
And a lot of pain, and a lot of mistakes.
Yes,
And a lot of
definitely.
mess
That's
up.
how you learn.
Times
You
a
learn
thousand.
from your mistakes. That's
Yeah,
that's
so don't feel like you're
learn.
missing out
No.
in terms of the whole therapeutic, you know, part that even Bianca can attest to this, that it's not always
Yes.
what we think. It's you know, they have a lot to learn. So you're in the right
Yes.
place. So
Thank you.
So
The
thanks
thing
everyone for joining us. Yeah.
The thing with therapy is it addresses your emotions, but this is neurological. This is a neurodevelopmental condition. So your emotions, you feel them so much more, but it's just the trigger. Sorry, it's just the symptom. It's not the trigger. So therapy, like I said, therapy has its place. But what I found, and even with my kids, it doesn't, because it's, yes, you go through depression, but you go through depression because you are unable to cope. So instead of giving you those coping skills, therapy just helps you understand that you're feeling sad, and you know, deal with external situations that happen. But it doesn't give you the resources to cope and to move on. And when it happens next week, I know how to deal with it.
Yeah, and my son definitely doesn't want to talk about his emotions, and he does not know how to deal with it. That's the main thing.
Most of the time, people on the spectrum don't know what their emotions are.
Yes.
So that's definitely the one thing that the coaching does do, not pushing the coaching, is that we deal with, you know, emotions is just energy emotion. It's telling you something's happening. And that's the most important thing, is to realize that this is energy. What is your frustration telling you? Frustration is telling you you're feeling stuck, you're wanting something to change. And then what do? You want somebody to change, or can you change your attitude or your behavior? And understanding that and working with that. And I mean, that at the end of the day is the most important thing, is if you can understand your own emotions and you can understand another person's, when they're angry, you actually understand what that anger is. Okay, that is where you have an exemplary life. that's where your happiness is, because you can learn to respond, not react. And that's the most important things, because it's just energy in motion. What is it telling you? So it's very helpful, very, very helpful in order for you to manage.
Tracy, I can agree with you there. I mean, if I wasn't in coaching now, my life would be very different, actually. Oh.
Yes, I mean, it's like we learn everything. We learn everything in life. We learn how to be an accountant. We learn how to be an architect. We learn how to do everything, but we don't learn how to live life.
Yes.
And like you have skills with everything else, living life and being happy is a skill set. It really is a skill set. It's a practical life skill set. And it's very, very sad that we've gone through life never learning how to think correctly. But that's the difference, is things is changing, and COVID has really been helpful in the sense it's brought up all mental health. And like Samaya always says, mental health is brain health. Like you have all kinds of other health, you need to learn to manage your mind. It's just mind management, because there's the mind-body connection. So if your body gets sick, it's because your mind's sick, and nobody's taught you how to manage your mind. So the great part about the life skills is that you actually learn how to think differently, which will create different feelings and different behavior. It's a skill set like anything else in life. So thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I have recorded this, and if you'd like me to send the recording, let me know. And along with the recording, I will send you an emotional dictionary, which will help you understand your emotions. So what the emotion is, and when you're feeling it, what does it mean, and then what to do about it. It's probably the most important dictionary you'll ever have in your life. So thank you, coaches, and thank you everybody who's joined us. And it's really been great to have you, and I hope to see you next month.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.